first day back out there. I know you and your guys were all on social media talking about, being excited to finally get spring ball going. What's it like to finally, be out there?
Well, we're excited to be out there as a first day. As a first day that has a certain amount of excitement and enthusiasm. And so I thought both sides ran around hard. I thought we were more consistent than I thought we'd be. I hoped we'd be consistent, but a lot of times you're not the first day. We did have a level of consistency, and we got to break in some of the new guys that aren't familiar with things.
Anything specific other than just being consistent? It wasn't necessarily.
Well, that'd be my only real gripe, but it's kind of a to be expected gripe. Most times in spring at this point we're less consistent, so that part's good. You want to be as consistent as you can. Played hard. Sometimes it's hard to tell without the pads, but we did get really good work in, and we did a good job, pretty good job of being full speed, without full contact. And both sides looked like they executed some things pretty well, and there weren't any lapses in the practice, I didn't think.
You mentioned previous teams being young. Have you seen a lot more experience or anything so far?
Well, we've logged some. We're still a young team, but we've logged some playing time. Despite the fact we're young, we've got guys that have played a certain number of games, more games than most guys in their classification.
What's some of your priorities for this spring in particular?
I think solidify the secondary and solidify the offensive line would be two of the big ones, and then try to get the receiver roster kind of a little clearer than it is right now. I think it's a little clouded. I think most of the jobs out there, receiver, are wide open, and we got some reasonably good guys, but they got to separate themselves. That's the biggest thing, is we need guys out there not just to run in the pack and get through practice. They need to separate themselves and give us a reason why we should play them instead of the other guy. So,
speaking of that offensive line, you brought in Percy Lewis from junior college to compete at the tackle spot. What's your early impressions of him? I know it's just day one, but from his workouts and getting out there today, what's your impressions of him so far?
He's worked really hard. He's lost quite a bit of weight, which he needed to do, and then he's got naturally good feet. And somebody comes right at him, he just flat out stops them. When he's still kind of getting the scheme and things, and so there are some growing pains there. But I mean, most of what I have to say about him is all positive. It's just any problems he had were kind of to be expected at this point.
What did you think of the kicking pool that you brought in this offseason?
Improvement. We'll wait and see.
On the right side at tackle, it looked like you were having Albert Reese out there with some of those first team reps. Is that a guy you kind of envision trying to get that role going into the fall?
Yeah, he kind of closed in on guys the end of last year. You can make the argument that he maybe should have been in there last year. It'd be a close call, I think, but but he certainly gained a lot of ground on the starting five, and and there's I can definitely see him being one of those guys if he keeps improving.
What are you most excited to kind of learn and see on these first couple of days of spring practice?
I guess, just the young guys that didn't play as much, how much they've improved. The biggest thing is because there's always a lot of improvement in, even though it's just a few weeks since the bowl practices, there's always a lot of improvement between there and spring, and we've had a good off season. So, that's kind of where some of the surprises come, and then you got to try to take their strengths and what they can do and get it out there on the field,
I know he wasn't here last year at this time, but how much different does Sawyer Robertson look this spring as opposed to maybe when he came in last fall?
He looks better, looks more comfortable. He looked really good today, I thought, for kind of a debut first day. I thought he looked good.
You mentioned solidifying the receiver roster. How important was it to add Mosley and Robinson, those transfer guys?
Well, we'll find out how important it was. If they play good, it was real important. If they don't play very good, then not so important. They both can do some things. Robinson, is big, a lot of range, but, he's got to kind of pull the trigger and make plays. And then, Mosley's real quick and out of his cuts and, just a genuinely fast guy. And then, we got to keep developing their ball skills and their route running and stuff like that, and see where that takes them.
Move some guys around as far as coaching is concerned in your staff, and I know you knew Drew and all these coaches are the same guys you know, but what's your impressions on how they've handled their new roles?
I think it's been good. I think it's all been pretty good. I think that and they're all familiar with everything too, so it's not like there was an incredible amount of adjustment, but I do think it freshens some things up too.
You talked a lot last year about, Will having experience but still being relatively young, considering he was only a sophomore. What's kind of the jump you're kind of looking to see from him in terms of whether it be production or consistency?
The biggest thing, and I think he's steadily improved, and then one of his strengths is that he doesn't have any huge weaknesses. He's just got to, keep enhancing himself overall, and then just really tune in and acclimate himself with the receivers around him so he can bring out the best in those guys. And he works at it, real diligently, and you can definitely see some improvement. And I thought, he looked pretty sharp today.
Are you planning on attending the draft for Charles Cross, who's going to get drafted high, or have you at least been in contact with him at all?
We hear back and forth a little, by word of mouth, kind of, from Charles or various people talk to him. I don't really plan to attend the draft. I don't even know when it is. Usually I read it on my phone, but when is it anyway?
April 28th.
April 28th.
22:30.
Are we practicing that day?
I think it ends April 26th.
Maybe we'll see what happens.
It's in Vegas.
It's in Vegas.
Yeah, I'm not a big Vegas guy. That's like being in a mall the whole time. Unless you're really into gambling, which I get bored with that. I mean, it's like being in a mall. I mean, maybe they don't have shoes and T-shirts and perfume, but they have it's just a mall that clinks a lot. So I'm not a big mall guy. It's fun for the short run, and there is great food in Vegas.
What are some of your favorite spots?
Oh, what is it? My favorite, the best place I've ever eaten is in Vegas, and there's a lot of great food in Vegas. And like I say, I'm not a huge Vegas guy. What's the one in the Golden Nugget? The advertisement used to always have that gigantic lobster.
Is that the one on Vegas Vacation? I went to the buffet.
I mean, it's a famous place, and it's at the Golden Nugget. Seems like Anthony's is in the middle of I can't remember. I just can't remember the name. It's really good. And then the Golden Nugget's more old school, so I kind of like that. And then I'm trying to think where the seafood buffet was, which I like that. And you destroy that and try to make sure that the casino loses money on that deal.
It's Vic and Anthony's, by the way.
Vic and Anthony's, very good. That's the best, restaurant I ate at. There was an Italian place, I can't think of the name. There's, it might have been the Rio that had whichever one's got the seafood buffet. That was good. Okay. Then there's this one, hole in the wall, not on the strip, around the corner, kind of from MGM. That's this Italian restaurant that has all these pictures of Frank Sinatra and all those type of guys, and it's you sit down and it has just a few items, and then they always ask you what kind of wine do you want, white or red. There's no brands, it's just white. and the food's pretty good, but the setting is pretty neat, and it's like old Vegas, like the biggest thing I'm interested in is the Mobster Museum there, which I have not been to, but I don't know, you about got me talked into go to Vegas to watch Charles.
Celine Dion puts on a good show.
Those guys will get drafted where they do, and we wish them the best. We want them to just work hard and carry themselves as far down the path as they possibly can, as far as being great players and have great careers. So,
Are we gonna see some tree houses popping up around Starkville now?
I'll tell you what. I went through this place in Heber, Utah. Went to a Starbucks, just driving through, kind of looking at it. You know, kind of a town that's grown fast, but just sort of in the mountains. Well, kind of the mountains, past where I went to college. Well, anyway, so I take a right, you know, because I know it's this fast-growing place, and it's just sort of in kind of rolling hills and sagebrush, sort of, and then, but it is scenic. And then I take a right, and it's not a fancy neighborhood. They're actually kind of older homes, because that's the thing, is the city's grown. It's grown into where these people have this acreage and that type of thing. And what I suspect happened is somebody built a tree house, and then all the neighbors decided they needed a tree house or something, because I can't say the entire town's like this. So I take a right, so it's past Starbucks and kind of northwest of Starbucks. So you go down the main strip to the west, just north of there, and it seemed like it was by a school. Well, anyway, I take a right, and there's a tree house. Now and it's not something fancy. It's not like that one I saw from Louisiana and Mississippi, the two really fancy ones. Okay, but it's just a basic tree house. You have a platform, a thing to sit on, stand on. Like when you're a kid, I mean, you know, that's Katie bar the door. I mean, you got a cool flag, you know, no little brothers or sisters allowed. You know, you go up there, you eat your sandwich, you know, you do battle with whatever forces that you're up there to combat, and try not to fall out. And it's a full big day, okay? And so, you know, they were kind of that type, but they were different. Well, and then I'm thinking, damn, I should have gone and taken a picture of that. Well, boom, there's another one. Okay, continue down the same side street, really. Boom, there's another one. And then when I got towards the end, because it kind of ran out of houses, because like I say, there was a time when these houses were sort of out of town, but not anymore. And then so I take the left. Well, I saw 8 or 10 tree houses in like 6 to 10 blocks. You know, and every third house has them a tree house, some better than others. And then, you know, one was a real cool platform with lights where, you know, you can tell the adults use that one, go up there and have a big time, you know. But you know, I can't say that, and that might be the only part of Heber that's got all those tree houses. I don't know, and I just happened onto it. But I mean, there was one after the next, some in disrepair, some hadn't been used, some clearly active. One was like kind of a full-fledged little cabin-looking thing. Looked like it was, you know, just kind of boards and stuff. And so, you know, Very Little Rascals, you know, if you ever watch that show. And it was, I don't know. And then I was starting to run out of daylight because I wanted to go see some other towns. I wanted to drive through Snow Basin and Eden and Huntsville, and which I did. And then, next time I'll have to saturate it a little bit and see how many, you know, if the whole town's doing it. But I can tell you that little section, somebody built a tree, the whole neighborhood decided to build tree houses, and some of them aren't on particularly significant trees. I mean, because I'll tell you, you know, Heber, Utah, for all the great things about it, it is not Mississippi, you know, where you can just go out anywhere. I mean, look out the window. You can go anywhere and build a tree house here. Okay, so, you know, in some cases they had to find their one tree, fortify that sucker up, and it was pretty inventive and impressive. And so anyway, the imagination runs wild as you see the tree houses, and then of course you want to. And I would have taken pictures, except for, you know, I was going to drive back. Well, then there's another one. Then I drove up to where I was going to turn around. Then there was another one. And I'm thinking, well, how many of these things do we have? And then I kept rolling. And so then finally, you know, took the right, headed west, went through Park City until I made it to Snow Basin. So that's how that happened.